Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. Today I'm here with my friends Allen and Vicki Moore out of Oklahoma City. We've been working together. They've been a part of our mastermind and some of our programs for, probably a year and a half now. And they're a husband and wife team, much like my wife and I work together. And there's not all pros and there's not all cons. It's just some pros and cons. Today we're going to talk about working with your spouse. Professional real estate investors know that it's not really about the real estate. In fact, real estate is just a vehicle to freedom. A group of over 100 of the nation's leading real estate investors from across the country meet several times a year at the Investor Fuel Real Estate Mastermind to share ideas on how to strengthen each other's businesses, but also to come together as friends and build more fulfilling lives for all of those around us. On today's show, we're going to continue our conversation of fueling our businesses and fueling our lives. I'm glad you're here. Hey guys, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hey, Mike.
Good to see you guys. So it's interesting because my wife is usually behind the scenes because she likes to be behind the scenes. And, I've made this joke before. She used to say she's the woman behind the curtain. And then at one point she said, well, I'm the puppet master. I was like, well, whoa, hold on. What does that make me? But she's been the brains of most of our operations, and it's always great working or talking to other husband and wife teams because I kind of know how it works for the most part. So I think there's a lot of real estate investors out there that are husband and wife teams and, two brothers or father, son, stuff like that, right? Father, daughter, all sorts of stuff. So it's interesting. It's an interesting business to work with your family in. And so it's going to be exciting to talk about, some of your pros and cons. I think folks will kind of relate to that. So tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into, I know your story, but share it with everybody else, like how you got to where you are today.
Well, I was, Vicki and I met in the Air Force, got married, and then I got out of the Air Force, started doing real estate, and didn't really know much about what I was doing, but I finally got one of those first paychecks, and I was like, geez, this is pretty nice. Okay. I was wholesaling. I was driving for dollars, literally, and then got to realize that, when you stop doing that, the deals stop coming in, and so that was a long time ago, and we just buying hold properties. We wholesaled a little bit, and we did some flips along the way, and so I did that for 15 years. Vicki was active duty Air Force, and then she just retired, and now she's working with me, doing the business together, and we went through flip nerd training together. So basically, we just wanted to start it all over. I needed a system in place to be able to scale and have an actual business rather than it working me into the ground. I managed everything. I went to eviction court and all that fun stuff, but now I don't have to do that. We've got a property manager, and Vicki is running the office, and I go out on appointments, and so it's
you're able to focus on what
she does a lot in the office. She has taken over the lead management, those types of things, and we've changed a little bit of how we do that now. But
I remember you came. So Vicki, you came on was it? Well, I don't remember if we first met you in Salt Lake City, right? So that was you got Salt Lake City shirt on even, yeah.
I do.
So that was February of last year. So
right.
15 months ago, and I knew right when I met you, I was like, oh, this whole game's about to change for Allen, because I know your background, Allen, and like you just talked about, you're just figuring it out and making it happen here and there, but
I had no idea.
Really wasn't your strength. You were telling us about your wife, like coming on, and when we met Vicki, we're like, oh, she's gonna be a rock star. So Vicki, you tell us about your kind of story, and then when you joined the day-to-day operations.
Well, when he says that we did all this stuff, he did that stuff,
right.
I showed up and signed a few papers every now and then. That was about the extent of what I was doing, because it's kind of difficult to do all that stuff while you're serving. in the Air Force on active duty. So I retired February 1st of 2019, and I was in Salt Lake City like a week later or
Yeah.
2 weeks later, something like that. I had no idea what I was walking into. Alan put me on a plane and said, "Here, go to this conference." And I'm like, "What is this?" "Oh, it's just a bunch of real estate investors. Go learn something." Right? That's what he told me. And
Quite like that.
I drank from a fire hose, and I knew how to be a real estate investor. I had lived with one for 15, 16 years, but I needed to find other people who had that bit of information that I needed that Alan couldn't provide me. So he's very good. He's a great people person. But when it comes to technology, that's a challenge for him.
Yep.
Where I'm one of those people who give it to me step by step on how to do it, and I will run with it and systematize it and make it all great and pretty, right? Not quite one of those people. The talking to people and networking and that type of thing. So I decided I had a choice that I could either go and work for somebody else. I've been working in the Air Force for 23 years and go work for somebody else for another 20 some odd years, or I can take control of my life and make my life what I wanted it to be. And so I took a chance, and we decided to start this thing over and make it work for us instead of it working us. So, yeah.
That's great. And I know you guys are modest, and but I know your skill sets. I know they complement each other really well. Much like my wife, I'm more of the sales and marketing guy. I love being around people, and she would rather just kind of duck out and disappear and go make the magic happen somewhere. And so I think those are great skill sets to have. I mean, the truth is most real estate investors that have a decent level of success have an operations person that's alongside them there somewhere, because you can only go so far with hustling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of the first things she made me do was fire me as a property manager. She ended up taking some of those calls, and she's like, "I'm not doing this." So we were able to, finally find a good one, and right now we're at 100% occupancy. So
that's great. That's great. Yeah. So talk a little bit about some of the pros and cons of. Maybe we'll start with you, Alan. What are some of the pros and cons? We talked about some of them, as she has some operating strengths, but maybe kind of pros and cons of having your spouse in the business.
Well, pros. I mean, we
putting you on the spot.
Yeah, no problem. The pros, obviously, I mean, you're working with somebody you trust. You get things done. They got your back. They're not going to let things fall through or let the sky fall. And when you need something done, you can get it done. You still can ask nice, but it's one of those things. You've got to learn to do that, because I was the boss for 16 years in my job, and I didn't have to answer to anybody. I didn't have to share information about what was going on. And now that was a learning curve for me. That was honestly my biggest problem, was making sure that she knew what I knew what was going on. And sometimes I can't always share that with her fast enough. So it's, we've got to delegate those responsibilities and make sure that things get, systematized so that everybody knows what's going on. Because now we've got an office person too in the loop. But so it's definitely something that took a little getting used to, but it's it's been well worth it, obviously, and it's been a tremendous increase in business for us working together, and
it forces you to be held accountable, right? I mean, on some level, when you're a lone wolf, there's almost zero accountability if you don't want there to be, right? But now I know she's whipped you into place a little bit.
Well, and it's I don't have to be a property manager anymore. That's a load off my plate, so I'm able to do more and get more productive and do better things for our business.
Yeah,
like acquire more property. So.
Yep. Yeah, and it allows you to focus on, what you're good at, and not have to spend, as much time on the stuff that you're not good at or you don't enjoy doing, right? Yeah. So how about you, Vicki? What are some of the maybe what are some of the cons of working together?
Well, okay, so
Putting you on the spot too.
yes, definitely. There's the trust thing.
Be nice.
I'm gonna be nice. But the thing is, both of us were used to being a boss.
Yeah.
And so both of us, for a time, really were trying to exact dominance over the other one because that's just what we knew. We knew because by golly, we knew what we were needed to do, and you have to learn to trust that the other person, they have their role, their strengths, and I've got to not try to take over his role, and he's to not take over my role, and we can meld very well together. I think the biggest con, though, is that work is always in session sometimes, and we have to remind each other that no, we're here at the ball game. We're not talking about work. Like we're having dinner. Let's stop talking about work. We have to remind ourselves that every
That's
now
hard.
and
And then I get that email. Oh, look, somebody's got a deal.
Yeah,
Squirrel.
I'm trying to go to sleep. Stop it. Quit it.
Yeah, it's hard. I'm very familiar with all that. It's just like, you never get away from it. You're in the shower and they're like,
always
hey,
engaged.
you remember to do that thing? It's like, what? Can I just have a minute?
It's hard to shut it off sometimes.
Right.
Yeah, no doubt.
But the big thing is when you have a partner who is just as bought in as you are, so long as you're both headed towards the same goal in the same direction. I mean, we've now gotten our goals to where they're very much aligned with each other, and we recognize that what he's doing right now is getting us towards that goal, just like what I'm doing over here is getting us to that goal, just in a different way. It makes all the difference. And if I were to recommend something, it's don't work against your spouse. Work with them. Find a way to work with them to get where you want to go.
One thing that I think certainly happens when spouses work together is it's weird. Like as real estate investors, we're willing to work hard. We're willing to kind of jump in and make things happen to provide financial freedom and freedom of time. And then I think what happens sometimes is it's easy to be at odds with each other and like, hey, this should be a good thing that we're working together. But sometimes it's easy to be like fighting each other for, you know what I mean? It's you guys, I'm sure you guys know what I mean. It's just like, wait a minute, are we aligned here? Or like, what are we doing all this all for? I think sometimes people, it ends up damaging some relationships, right? I mean, I know some people that their relationship didn't work out because they worked together and it kind of tore them apart. And so that's like, that's the exact opposite of why you do that in the first place, right?
Right.
You just got to remember why you went into business together. Right. What was your original plan? What drove you to do that?
Yeah.
Don't lose sight of that.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you, any kind of tips on how you guys, if you have like quarterly meetings or some way to kind of just compare, like, where are we against our goals, or what are our goals, or how you kind of goal plan together and make sure that you're on the same page? Is there anything specific that you guys do?
We do our 90-day goals with Investor Fuel and focus on those. And it's a matter of, okay, when we start finding ourselves squirreling over here, it's more of, and it's usually me, that says, okay, how is that going to get us here? This is where we said that we wanted to be. How is that showing us how we're going to get here? And then it's like, oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So it's, I think it is great to have, you got to have somebody who's going to do that if you've got a squirrel in the mix.
Yeah.
Shiny objects are everywhere.
You guys do anything like, I know you have a quarterly meeting at what you just said there was at the quarterly Investor Fuel meetings, you do your 90-day goal planning, which is typically part of like the EOS process. So something that we do in our office, we follow kind of the traction model of having a quarterly meeting, and then planning out for, they say 10 years. We never really take it out past 2 years because sometimes I don't know what's going to happen next week, let alone 5 years from now seems like a lifetime away. But and then you kind of back into monthly goals and stuff like that. Do you guys do any other weekly or monthly meetings?
Because it's the two of us and our office manager, um, I wouldn't say that we have scheduled meetings at this particular point.
Right, right.
That's for the future. But the other thing is, like, everything that we're doing, we bounce it off those goals. Does this fit with what our vision is?
Yeah, good.
Well, and if it doesn't, then that's not what we're going to focus on during this next 90 days. I mean, that could be that particular house. Yeah, it'd be great for someone who wanted to do this, but that's not what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
To get us to this goal this particular quarter. So we'll find a different thing to do with that particular deal.
So talk a little bit about delegation. So I know, Allen, you're doing everything, and then Vicki comes on, and then I know, one of the things that I think happens sometimes, and this is kind of what my wife Lindsay has said to me before, is like she's really good at some stuff, and I sometimes I just take that for granted, like, hey, you're good at that, so do it. But she's like, well, just because I'm good at it doesn't mean I want to do it, right? It's real easy to say.
That often.
Yeah.
Right? So there's stuff that Vicki, you're operationally inclined, but it doesn't mean you want to do everything that's requires a detail-oriented person, right?
Well, delegate what you don't like to do, even though you might be good at it. You can train somebody else to do it. We learned that pretty quick.
Yeah. In the beginning, it was a lot of, I saw Allen struggling with doing a couple of things. So I would say, okay, I'll take this one. I'll take this one. I'll take this one, because I was trying to get him into kind of his zone. But then I realized that I was taking on so much stuff that was just sucking the life out of me. And so I had to do the same thing with myself and identify all those things that was like sucking the life out of me.
Yeah.
And then finding it, the key was really to find that person, that first person to hire that would enjoy doing all the life-sucking things that I didn't want to do anymore. And it took me a couple of months of interviews and finding that person, but I did. I found that person who absolutely thrives on taking a box of chaos and filing it nice and pretty and neat and scanning it, and it's all electronic now. I could find everything, and it's everything is always a work in progress, and and morphing to become better. But that finding those things that even I'm good at filing. I could file. I've filed forever. I can do that. But I'm going to be an angry person if I have to sit there and file for weeks on end. It will just turn my whole personality into grumpy person.
Right.
And nobody wants an angry mom.
And sometimes it's good to do it so you know how it gets done, right? So you can train somebody, even if you're like, man, I got to get out of this as soon as I can. But I need to know exactly how it's done, because at the end of the day, like, one of the things that happens is you delegate it to somebody. They're not the right person, or you fire them, or they leave, or get hit by a truck or whatever. But you always need to, if it comes, which means it's going to boomerang back to you for some period of time. Right. And so what I found sometimes is, if I don't know how to do something, or we don't know how to do something, and we give it to somebody else and they're not the right person, sometimes we keep them around longer than we should, because they're like, I don't want it to come back to me. It's like, it's the lesser of the evils, but that's not really the right way to look at it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and they've been able to find ways. We're good at addressing things that we're having a problem with.
Yeah.
And we try to help. All of us try to help each other out with that. Finding stuff in certain CRMs for me was a challenge when it came to an appointment or something I had to go to, and they found a way to make it very easy for me to just click on it and find it. And, So, little things like that make all the difference when I'm going out in between appointments, and being able to track everything and put it together so that they don't miss anything. And, Asana has helped us with those tasks as well, to delegate who's doing what and when. And so we've got everything very systematized in there. So
that's great.
It's been a great help to keep things in order and for us. So.
Yeah, you call it scary sometimes because I systematize everything so much.
I know when I have to take out the garbage, Mike. I mean, everything's
Yeah.
in there.
Well, that's what you get for having a wife that's a Six Sigma black belt. She's gonna like.
I did a task to take out the trash.
I just saw you finish brushing your teeth, but that wasn't 2 minutes. You
Yeah.
We aren't there yet, but
No, I'm not like that. But with so many things going on, like
it's easy to forget.
it's easy to forget things. Like I use Asana for my personal life, like taking
Yeah,
out the
I do
garbage.
too.
I have to have that showing up on the night before so that I can make sure that I'm not running out in my underwear at 6 o'clock in the morning trying to put the trash out on the curb. That nobody
Yeah.
needs to see that either. So yeah, and
Awesome.
the less that I have to think about things, the better off that I am. If I automate things and I don't have to use brain power to remember something, then I can use those neurons to make money.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So a big part of, I think, everybody's success is, obviously having the right team, and you guys have made some amazing changes there. And then just making sure you're around the right people. So you guys have been a part of the Investor Fuel Mastermind for about a year and a half, right, Alan? It was a fall of 2018, I guess.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, we're coming
Yeah.
up
Would you mind sharing any thoughts on, Investor Fuel and how it's helped improve your business, or how it's impacted I guess maybe your business or your life?
Well, I mean, we've been able to get a better understanding of how to get systems in place to, do pretty much everything. And there's, you have a lot of great people in the group that share knowledge with everybody else. They don't just keep to themselves. And that's key to helping others grow as well. Obviously, I mean, we've been able to do like the roundtables and things like that with the group, and we've been able to learn a lot from other members in the group as well. And of course, she's been able to figure out how to do systemize things for real estate to basically help our business go to where it is. So, I mean, it's been a tremendous asset for us, and we're members for life. It's been wonderful.
I was able to take, because it's real estate investing is not rocket science. I mean, you've got a handful of different ways to do things, right? And then you just rinse and repeat on many different things. But it's a matter of no one in that room knows everything that they need to know, but you have a bunch of people in the room that have little bits and pieces of the information that you need.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't feel intimidated. I could ask any question that I needed to ask. And I had 5 or 6 people that were like, hey, I had that problem too. Here's how I solved it. And some of them, I mean, it would be more than just, hey, here's how I solved it. Here's how I solved it. And here's the document that I used. Here's a great resource. Here's this guy that I worked with. Oh, and you need, a legal review. Here's my legal guy. Here's here's the checklist that I used for these things. And here's this other thing. Here's the app that I use. This is how it integrates with this other app. I mean, all of those things allowed me to do research and get the best solution for us and for who we are, how he works, how I work, and how the systems should function and work together to where every time we do something now, it is everybody knows what their role is and what their job is, and it's boom, boom, boom. All right, next. And you don't have to think about those things. So it was very eye-opening to me to be in a room of a bunch of people that were so willing to help after being in an environment that just wasn't quite so willing to help everyone else to succeed. And you would think that, these are all real estate investors. These might end up being my competition. And it blew my mind that everyone was so willing to help out in that regard. And it's a big family. It's a big family that you can just say, hey, anybody heard about this thing? I'm experiencing this thing, and you've got 10 different people who will come out and say, hey, yeah, tell me about that, because I'm experiencing that same thing right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And Vicki, one thing I'll say about you for sure is I've seen you go from absorbing the first, half year, and now you're like this huge giver. You're constantly sharing stuff back, which is amazing. That's kind of how our community works. Is I think most people, we don't try to make anybody feel bad, and we don't want anybody to feel bad. But usually, when people start, they're like, "Well, I don't really know what I can give," and it's like, okay, well, just receive for a while. But eventually, people usually get to a point where like they feel like, "Gosh, I've gotten so much that I feel some obligation to give back because you got that." I mean, I think that's kind of the foundation of our Investor Fuel community is giving and receiving. So awesome. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah. Meeting 1 was drinking from a fire hose. Meeting 2, I was kind of swallowing a little bit of it. But, third meeting, it's like, all right, let's go.
I got this. Yeah. Awesome. Well, guys, I appreciate you spending some time with us today. If folks wanted to connect with you guys up in Oklahoma City, I know you do some wholesaling stuff, obviously, as well. Where can they go to learn more about you guys or connect with you?
Well, we have our website. It's momandpophomebuyers.com. You can also email Allen. It's ALLEN at momandpophomebuyers.com. And for me, it's VICKI at momandpophomebuyers.com. And we're both on Facebook. So just reach out.
Okay.
Ask us.
Cool. We'll add some links down below. So appreciate you guys a ton. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for sharing your story. A lot of similarity with, my wife and I of just sometimes, at the same time we're building something together. Sometimes you butt heads a little bit, but we all agree that it's better than going back to what we used to do.
Absolutely.
Well, if it was all sunshine and roses, you would never grow. And
that's true.
We've done a ton of growing in the last year. So.
Which is a good thing, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, appreciate you guys sharing your time with us. And everybody, thanks for joining us for today's episode. Hope you got some value there. If you haven't yet subscribed to the Investor Fuel Show, we'd love it if you just go to investorfuel.com and you can see all of our shows, or you can access us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, YouTube, wherever you're watching or listening right now. Would be great. So appreciate you guys a ton. We'll see you on the next show.
Thanks.
Are you an active real estate investor? If so, and you want to latch on to the power of surrounding yourself with over 100 of the nation's leading real estate investors, all committed to building stronger businesses and living richer, fuller lives, you should jump on a call with us to learn more about Investor Fuel. Simply visit investorfuel.com to get started.